Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What's going on, Internet? Eric Panholtz here, back again with another amazing e-commerce conversations. Hey, you know who's in the house, in the Beard Brand Austin house? Mr. Peter Keller. What's up, man?
What's happening, Eric? It is so good to see you, my friend, because we are here in person. This is not Zoom.
Yeah.
This is real life. This is flesh and blood. I could throw that coffee cup across the table and hit you in the head.
Yeah.
That gives me pleasure,
Yeah.
that thought.
I've been fortunate that I've been interviewing a lot of Austinites. So I've been getting them here in the studio, the brave souls who are willing to put their bodies at risk to talk about business for our listeners. And Peter and I go back way, like Peter is, to me, one of the pillars of inspiration in building Beard Brand. We first connected on Reddit probably, 7 years ago?
7, 8 years. It's been a long time, man.
Peter introduced me to e-commerce Fuel and Andrew Udarian, and being able to connect with him in person. And not only that, he's a brilliant entrepreneur. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he's been through so much as well, and he's been very transparent about his ups and downs. So a little biases up front. He's the founder of Fringe Sport. I've spent several $1,000s with Fringe Sport. In return, I got a free erg from him, which was a nice little gift. Thank you, Peter.
A pleasure. That was for me personally, not for my business.
Yes. So for any of his employees listening. And the other thing I want to talk about is, God, man, there's just, well, anyways, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Again, it is awesome to be here.
You know what I was going to say? You've done other recordings on this podcast with Carrie as the host.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes. And you're like a guest writer for Practical E-Commerce.
I am, yeah.
So
it's an incestuous relationship that we have going on here.
Yeah. You know, like I had a tweet about this today, and it was...
Incest?
Well, no, it was about one of my success hacks in life is put yourself around other brilliant minds. And I feel like, you know, I'm just attracted to really smart, successful, driven people. And that's why I always enjoy my time with you. So
awesome.
Tell the audience, I'm done selling you. Tell the audience, what have you been doing with Fringe Sport?
Man, yeah. So Fringe Sport just started because I built an amazing gym in my garage, and it was harder than it needed to be. And so that was the beginning 11 years ago, where I dismantled that garage gym that I had, racked it out, and started selling barbells, kettlebells, weight plates, and stuff like that out of my garage. And then from there, we've grown, and now we've supplied more than 100,000 customers over the years with awesome garage gym gear, and also helped a bunch of entrepreneurs grow thriving local community gyms. You might know them as local powerlifting gyms or CrossFit gyms, that sort of thing. So that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. So one of my fond memories, or the memories that have stuck in my head, was Beard Brand at the time was probably doing about $2 million in sales. This was a number of years ago. And I think, like, I don't want to disclose what you're doing, but you're talking about how easy it was going to be to get to 8 figures. And I'm like, oh man, like this Peter guy, he's got it all figured out. He's got a blueprint. And then I remember, like, you said you had hit that in like a year or two. And then I ran into you like 3 years later, and you're like, no, we're still not there. So talk about the ups and downs of, like, give a real 30-second review of, I don't know if you can do it in 30 seconds, but talk about your ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I've always shared, unfortunately, is all the stuff that I do wrong. And this is going to go longer than 30 seconds, but bear with me here. E-commerce is so close to like the internet marketing space that I think that most people who get into it initially have this idea that they have to fake it before they make it, and then they just keep faking it the whole way through. I tried that, like when I was younger, and when I just founded Fringe, I tried it. It didn't fit. Like, it was clothes that weren't designed for me, and I just hated it. And so one of the things that I started doing is I started just being very public with, here's what's worked for us, here's where we plan to go, and here's what's not worked for me. And I'm a little worried because I made a lot of good friends out of saying stuff that's not worked for me. But I feel like within the entrepreneurial community, a lot of my dirty laundry is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll just mention a couple of big things here. I founded Fringe with my brother. He was my co-founder. And we had one of the dirtiest, worst, like most painful business breakups that you could possibly imagine without lawyers getting involved. Now, if lawyers got involved, probably would have been way worse. But it was like my business divorce. And you and I have been over that, Eric, like many, many times. That was massive. I also had an employee steal 6 figures from me. I'm pretty sure I ran down that with you. And that was just crazy and smacked us down and, made me feel like an idiot. Before that, I'd looked at other people and said, this employee embezzled a bunch of money. And I'm like, what a stupid person. How stupid are they? You don't notice $100,000 going missing? And then I went and had more than $100,000 go missing. But I share that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the reason you share it is, obviously to help other people out there. But, for me, I tend to share things too. And it's almost like a form of therapy. Like to be able to say these things and recognize that it has happened to other people, like you have squandered. I've lost 5 figures, not through theft, but just from incompetent product launches where you just have to like toss the products and you can't sell them. And, it's not fun. One thing that I think we've always talked about with Fringe is there's been such an opportunity from my perspective in like owning that brand and that messaging. And before we hit record, like, I think Peter finally got it. Like, how many years did that take?
Well, we're in business now 11 years.
Okay.
But I want to remind you of something. I don't know if you even remember this, but this was 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was midnight or later. We were in Bangkok and we left a party together and went to a wine bar and had a glass or two of wine. Do you remember that night?
I don't know. What were we talking about? Those are the things I remember.
Okay. What we're talking about is I lured you into this wine bar and I was like, Eric, your brand for Beard Brand is brilliant. Can you explain to me how to build a brand? And God bless you. You did your best, but it took a long, long, long time to sink in from there. But I still have those notes from that couple of glasses of wine and I still think back at that because to me, you just breathe brand.
What did I tell you? I must have had too many glasses of wine because I don't remember.
You might have had too many glasses of wine.
Was it any good? I'm just wondering if it was any good or if I've gotten better at branding.
No. It was great. And what you were talking about was like purity of focus. And I remember, I'm pretty sure it was from that conversation because I've had many conversations over the years. But I remember you talking about the urban beardsman. Mm-hmm. And you were saying that everything we do is for this urban beardsman, basically a customer avatar. And you asked me, who is the customer avatar for Fringe Sport? And I was like, a CrossFitter. And you said, no, that's not good enough. I mean, come on. And I couldn't come up with anything. And then you said, well, I don't know what you need to do, but what we've done for Beard Brand is we have this urban beardsman and everything that we do revolves around him. How do we make his life better? And so that's one of the things that I remember from that conversation. Does that sound familiar at all?
Yeah. I mean, well, I know like you made that transition from CrossFitter to like building garage gyms.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure that happened after that conversation. And I like that idea of garage gyms because that was a new concept that I hadn't seen a lot. Like CrossFitters, especially, like in this space, there's a very litigious organization.
Are you going to have to bleep that word?
I don't know. I don't think so. You might. Somehow they find every piece of content.
They're under new management now, by the way.
Oh, are they less litigious? Or
I have not gotten a C&D for a few years from that organization. And I used to routinely get C&Ds every 9 months. Yeah. And they would be for you got a brand, you have to defend your brand. I totally get that. But they would be for some of the most crazy stuff. Like we would have, a new marketing intern who started and they would go through some of our Instagram posts and say, oh, this doesn't have a popular hashtag on it. And then they would hashtag the brand. And then we would get a C&D.
Oh my God.
And I'd be like, come on, guys. So.
Well, that's good that they've moved on from that. Maybe they've learned their lessons a little bit, but.
Maybe so. But back to branding.
Yeah.
One of the things that we were talking about just before the mics heated up.
Yeah. What is Fringe about now?
Well, okay. I'm getting an unaccredited master's degree, which, by the way, makes my grandfather about barf. He was like, why are you getting, if you're going to spend the time to get a master's degree, why don't you get one that's a real master's degree?
It's like, why are you bothering to learn?
Well, but he's also like, why are you not getting that sheepskin on the wall?
Well, I mean, who you want to like apply a job for? Like, you've got the job.
Yeah, well, but like your parents or your grandparents, they're like, oh, I always got to look after,
No, I mean, I get
Peter.
it. I get it. But I'm just like, in 2021, if you're an entrepreneur, who the hell cares? Just learn wherever you can learn.
I totally agree with that. But so I went to this program, and it's through EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, that, I'm really involved in. And one of the things that they presented at this program is they had someone who worked closely with Simon Sinek, and they presented on the Find Your Why or Start with Why framework. I love the program except for that presentation. I went away from the program and I was like, Find Your Why, what millennial bullcrap. Why can't these millennials just go to work, work hard, and then go home and do whatever they're going to do after work? So after the program, the gentleman who was running the program reached out to me a few months later. He and I are friends, and we keep up to date on each other. And I guess I had, extra coffee that morning or something like that. And I told him, I said, hey, I loved everything except that Find Your Why stuff. And he said, well, what are you talking about, Pete? And I said, same thing I just said to you right here. It's just millennial bullcrap. And I was talking to him on the phone. I remember he just went full stop. He's like, Peter, you're missing something massive here. And I said, oh, come on, really? And he said, I tell you what, go buy the book, Find Your Why. So Start with Why is the one that Simon Sinek wrote. Find Your Why is like a workbook for working through what your why is. He said, buy that book, spend 10 hours working through the book. I know that sounds like a lot. Spend 10 hours working through that book. And if it's 10 hours wasted, call me up and I'll apologize to you. I'm not going to pay you any money or anything, but I'll apologize to you. But I don't think it's going to be 10 hours wasted. So I really respect him. And so I bought the book and I started working through the book. And one of the things it talked about is when your company has helped a customer and then the customers come back to you at some point. Because, if you do right by customers, some customers leave a review, oh, this changed my life, or this did that. Or they send you an email, they send you a tweet like, hey, thank you for this. Go back and look at all those customers who came back and figure out what's the commonality with them. Then go to your employees. Start asking them about the customers that they're proud of. What are the deals that they really care about? And at first, your employees are going to be like, oh, well, I sold this guy $10,000 worth of stuff. But that's not it. They're not really proud of that. I mean, they may have made a good commission or something like that. But ask them what really filled their heart up. And so I looked into it. I asked a bunch of our employees, and all these stories started to coalesce around customers who had come to us, gotten some barbells, weight plates, something like that, and then come back later on and said, hey, look at the weight that I lost. Look at the competition that I won. My wife was struggling with depression and she started lifting weights and the depression's gone. And so all these stories coalesced around lives that were improved through strength. And technically we're a strength and conditioning equipment company, but the strength and the improvement in people's lives, that was the magic. And so then also as part of the process, it was, see where your customers are using your products. I mean, it's so easy to sit in the metaphorical ivory tower and just kind of ship product and not think about it. And so I started I was traveling a lot at the time, and I would send out an email to our full email. I did some crazy things. I'd send out emails to our full list or maybe like a subset. And basically I'd be like, hey, I'm going to be in San Francisco. I'm going to be in Charlotte. Who's got our product? I'd love to come by and work out with you. And it ended up being mostly people who were building garage gyms. And when I say garage gyms, I mean in their garages. A lot of people talk about home gyms or basement gyms or this, that, and the other. I went to a ton of our customers' garages, just kind of all over the US. And then I also went to a bunch of CrossFit boxes, a bunch of powerlifting gyms, a bunch of things like that. And so those were the main things that people were doing. So I used that Find Your Why framework, and our why became, we exist to improve lives through strength. That is what we do. And actually we have, back to what I talked about earlier, we do have some customer avatars. But basically what I tell my employees now is if we think we should or shouldn't do something, like just look up on the wall. Are we helping people improve lives through strength? And then our hows, because that's our why, our hows are we help build amazing garage gyms. And by the way, like one of the hardest things for me to break my employees of was them being so adamant that we must put Fringe Sport product in people's garage gyms and only Fringe Sport product. And I'm like, no. We improve lives through strength. So if someone is improving their life through strength, that's someone we need to help. If someone's building a garage gym, that's what we support. So for example, customers would send us in pictures to put on our Instagram and say, oh, here's the garage gym that I built, but it would have our product, but a bunch of other companies' products as well. And my marketing people would say, screw this. We're not putting this on the Fringe Sport Instagram. And I would say, why not? They're like, well, it's got other people's product in it. I said, well, is it a cool garage gym? Would our other clients get use out of it? Well, yeah, but it's got other people's stuff in it. Run that stuff. Run it. And then we also help entrepreneurs grow thriving local community gyms. But one other thing on the find your why, I also went to find my personal why. And through that process, did similar things. And I realized that in the early days of Fringe Sport, like when I told you that we were going to do 10 figures, the why of Fringe Sport was not to help improve lives through strength. It was so that Peter Keller does not have to say, yes, sir, to a jerk. It was so I didn't have to get a job.
Yeah.
And that's not an inspiring why to anyone except for me and possibly slightly my wife.
Yeah. But even to you, it's probably not.
It's
not
not
motivating either.
Yeah, beyond a certain point.
I'm a big believer in core values, brand, mission. When you think about building a business, if you're a new entrepreneur, you've never started a business before, there's a lot of glamour. There's the Gary Vaynerchuks. There's, like the Ty Lopez's.
I was about to say Ty Lopez in his Lamborghini, man.
Yeah, there's people selling the dream, right? And how great it is, the freedom, the private jets, the travel, and those things are possible. But the reality is to get to those levels, for the majority of cases, you have to grind. Absolutely grind. You have to go through tough relationships with your brother. You have to go through employees stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have to go through, relationship problems with your partner, or your kids asking why didn't you make it to this event? Or why were you traveling for my birthday? Or whatever. These are sacrifices you make. And if the reason is because you don't want to get a job, you're not going to make it. I mean, you need to have purpose. You need to have that why. I've never read the book, I'm not a reader, but it's something that I entirely, resonate with. Beard Brand's mission is to make men awesome. And through grooming, obviously, is the way to do it, the how. And, it's we get these stories. I've got here my book of reminders. And a normal company is not going to produce something like this. But because you start to become mission oriented, and it allows you to do things kind of beyond your scope that serve your customers. And that's where you build your moat, in my opinion. So I'm glad you finally, bought the Kool-Aid. You didn't have to go on an ayahuasca trip for that, did you?
No. I just had to fumble around in my own darkness for 11 years.
Yeah.
Or, maybe 9 years until I really figured that out. But I mean, I would double down on that, mission and value thing. I think that I was very financially motivated when I became an entrepreneur. I had been working for an e-commerce company for 10 years. I had worked my way really far up into that e-commerce company, and I saw the CEO getting very wealthy. And good for him, by the way. No ill will or anything there. And I thought, oh, wow, I should be the one who's getting very wealthy. And then when I got out, like you said, and founded Fringe, that's really an empty goal. That's a great byproduct that can happen, but it's just such an empty goal because, money's not going to love you in the morning, but your significant other will, your kids will, and by the way, your customers will, if you are doing it for the right reasons. I'm not really a big Tony Robbins guy, but I take from anywhere I can find value. And one of the things that he talks about is, he says, if you want to be a millionaire or, billionaire or something like that, figure out how to help an amazing number of people and then just harvest a little bit of value off of that. And so that's the big thing is help massively. And then, you'll be able to do well in the world if you can work the business angle behind that.
Yeah. The more value you bring to the world, the more wealth you'll generate.
Absolutely.
I'm a capitalist true and true. And
you capitalist pig.
Yeah. Well, I mean, capitalism has been slandered so much, but the reality is at our scale, where we're not influencing governments for handouts or whatever, and we only serve our customers, the only way for us generate wealth for our families is by serving our customers. And, that's the capitalism that I know and love. It's not the corporations and the
rent seeking, things like that.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't want to digress to like an anti-socialism, pro-capitalism rant, which I certainly can do. But I want to ask you a hard question here, Peter. So apparently you're very stubborn, very hard-headed. Right now, as I record this, what are you being stubborn about that you should be doing that you're not doing?
That's a great question. And I'm going to give you the benefit of not giving a softball answer. And I am stuck right now on leadership and developing my people. I am really, really struggling through it right now because we reached another level of scale last year that I'd kind of only dreamt of before, and kind of, my dreams are coming true in terms of our impact on the world. But with that, we are having to deal with problems at a scale that we never have done so before. And so the ability of like Peter Keller I've always been a workhorse, and the ability of Peter Keller to be a workhorse and to fix things, to solve problems, or even just to develop products and stuff like that, it's outstripped my ability. And I all of a sudden am running the largest organization that I've ever run. We have about 30 employees now. And I don't want to say I'm failing at it because the company is still successful. We're still helping our customers and things like that. But I'm not succeeding at it the way that I need to succeed at it. And I don't know how to unlock that level of myself from a leadership. And so you had asked about being stubborn.
Well, yeah. So what advice are people giving you, or what books have you read that you're just not implementing?
Scaling Up by Vern Harnish.
Yeah.
So we've already implemented Traction, EOS, pretty strictly. Mm-hmm. But I think that we're at a level where we're outstripping a little bit of what at least I need from Traction. I really think you had talked a little bit earlier about, not being as much of a reader. And I have a friend who's not really very much of a reader, and I read a lot. And one of the things he said, "Hey, Pete, have you read Good to Great?" And I said, "Yeah, kind of many people have read Good to Great." He's like, "Have you implemented everything from Good to Great that you should have implemented into Fringe?" "No, I didn't." "Okay, well, why are you reading more books then? Why don't you just go back to Good to Great, implement all that stuff?" But back to Scaling Up, I do think Scaling Up is the book that I just need to go back to as a textbook, and then just implement that stuff. And then that'll probably solve my problems.
Well, do you have an integrator?
I don't.
That's your problem, right?
Yeah, that is my problem.
I mean, because you're not an integrator.
No,
you'll never be. Yeah, you'll never do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I get bored. So fast.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both.
I'm bored with you right now. No, I'm just kidding. Never bored with you.
So, I mean, I think that's a really hard position to hire.
Yeah.
So for those who are not familiar with an integrator, there's this book called Rocket Fuel. So there's Rocket Fuel, there's Scaling Up, there's Rockefeller Habits. They're all kind of like part of the same family of concepts. Top grading is also included in that. And Rocket Fuel, the concept is businesses that grow the best at the leadership position, they have a visionary and they have an integrator. And the visionary is a person who comes up with the idea. They see the marketplace, they're like in touch with the future. And the integrator is a person who takes the vision for the future and brings it to the present and sets all the structure and things that need to happen. Very rarely, there are some people who can be both a visionary and an integrator, but I would say, don't even chase that. Like, recognize, are you an integrator or a visionary? And subsequently, I think, are there more visionaries or are there more integrators?
There are way more visionaries.
Okay. So it's easy, apparently, to come up with ideas.
Well, because to be a great visionary, maybe that's hard and that's rare. But to be a visionary, you kind of have to just have like a great idea and, have a dream for how you think the world could change. But to be an integrator, you have to be able to actually change the world to match that dream. One other thing about visionary integrator, a lot of times people say visionary is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, and the integrator is the COO, Chief Operational Officer, or possibly the president. But what I've been trying to do with Fringe so far is I've been trying to groom people within the organization who could then rise up to that level. And, that's been difficult and slower than we need it to be for the company. Yeah. So maybe, this is like therapy on the air right here. I mean, maybe I just need to go and put a lot of brain cycles into searching for that COO or that integrator.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is is there anyone on your team when you go into your gut, do you think they have the capabilities to be, not being there now, but they have the potential and the capabilities to be there?
I do think there are a few people on my team that have the potential to be there. I'm not sure what the time frame of that change is.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I struggle with some of the people on my team right now, which if any of you are listening, you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about you. But I'm very comfortable being unreasonable. And I have a hard time getting people to understand that I try to be unreasonable, but based in reality versus unreasonable and just like stuff that's impossible. And I think that a lot of times when people hear me being unreasonable, they just think, that guy is off his rocker. Like there's no possible way we can do this. I'll give you a great tangential example. So we're not reporting revenue numbers, but let's say that we've got a very healthy, business. My Google and Facebook ad spend last year was $0. We do not spend any money on pay-per-click advertising. Almost every one of my friends who knows the revenue we do and knows kind of the profit and stuff like that, they are just like, you are crazy, Peter. You are crazy. Why are you not investing money into Facebook ads? Maybe not right now with this iOS whatever change, I don't know. But they're like, you're crazy. Why are you not investing money into Google and Facebook ads? And what I tell them is, first of all, if you want to know the real answer, I'm just not comfortable with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm comfortable with other stuff. But the other thing is, back to our why now, we improve lives through strength by helping people build amazing garage gyms and helping entrepreneurs grow thriving local community gyms. I have written, and I believe, we steal money from Google and Facebook and give it to our customers in the form of amazing content. That's how we've been growing our business, is amazing products and amazing content. And so back to me being stubborn or whatever, is every marketing person that I interview whenever we're hiring for marketing, they always ask about PPC. And I always tell them, we don't do any PPC. They all say that we can't do what we're doing without doing any PPC. And I say, we are doing what we're doing without doing any PPC. And so back to me being unreasonable, that's something that's difficult for me to get through some of my employees, that I'm unreasonable about reality-based things, and we just need to keep pushing until we can find the solution.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you there. I think what employees might not recognize is how often entrepreneurs talk with each other. And it's like, well, that company's doing it.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? So it's clearly possible.
Yeah.
We're not doing it now, but someone else is doing it.
Yeah.
So we can do it.
Well, I'm hyper competitive.
Yeah.
And you're hyper competitive too. So I think for you and me, when we see that guy over the fence doing it, even if they're, our friend in an entrepreneurial group, although not competitive, we're like, well, if they can do it, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Like you said.
I think I don't know, man. The risk taker in me is like, just promote someone, COO.
Yeah.
Give them the reins, make them do it, make them learn on the fire, because it's going to be much quicker that way. And then if they can't do it, maybe it's a trial period for 6 months or something, then get them their old job back. Because the reality is, like, someone who you think is good enough to be COO, you don't want to lose them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can give them that role or title, knowing that it's interim, that they're not going to lose their job if it doesn't work out. We've had some situations like that where someone took a new role at Beard Brand and they're like, I just hate this. I can't deal with like the ambiguity. And we're like, great, here's your old job. You're amazing at it. We love you. We love you working here. It takes a bold person to be humble enough to recognize that a job's not a right fit for you, because a lot of people might be too proud. But in my opinion, with an integrator, that's the kind of trust you need to have too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you can't have that kind of open transparency with them, then they shouldn't be an integrator. Like an integrator is essentially like your next husband or wife,
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about that one?
Yeah.
I might go back to the office on Monday and be like, hey, guess what? You're promoted.
Yeah, you're doing it. Yeah.
If I have any anxiety attacks in the middle of the night, then you're going to be demoted again.
I mean, I think you can probably come up with a way, because ultimately it's going to take 6 months to find that person too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in 6 months, if you put someone like trial by fire, is it good or bad? Like I think there's a lot of things you have to think forward.
Yeah, for sure.
We kind of lean towards the same way as you. Like we would rather promote from within. And
100%.
Really, for me, it's the core values.
Yeah.
Do they represent your brand's core values? Because that's the biggest risk, is bringing someone in that doesn't represent the core values. Like you can learn how to set KPIs and have meetings and just like execute on projects they're working on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, that is why we want to promote from within, because we want people who have come up through our system and who represent our core values and understand that stuff. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, it takes a long time to break people of the fact that it doesn't matter if they have other brands' gear in the pictures. We're trying to help people improve lives through strength. Just help the customers.
And I think like once you tap that person on the shoulder, then it's like, okay, now I can just open up about everything. Like now that you're in this role, now that you're a person, I'm just going to brain dump everything, right? Because you don't do that with all your employees. Or I should say, I personally don't do that, right? The conversations I have with Lindsay, the integrator of Beard Brand, are completely different than any other team member that I have. Like we just talk about things at a high level that I wouldn't talk about with anyone else. And like for me, I feel like if Lindsay stepped down from the company and I had to tap someone on the shoulder, then all of a sudden they would be getting the 10 p.m., like brain thoughts and dumps and stuff like that Lindsay deals with.
That's interesting. I'm probably more vulnerable with my employees than I should be because it just comes easy to me to just share. But definitely there are levels, like not sharing as much with the rank and file as I am with my leadership team. And definitely I do have a partner who I share a lot with.
Cool. Where can people learn more about you, Peter?
www.fringesport.com. You can find me on Twitter, although I'm not very active, at Pete Keller. So, but yeah, that's the best way. And actually, if you want, my email address. Has anyone ever given out their email address on this show?
Yeah, Mike Teku.
Dang it.
But you can still give it out.
All right. It's peter@fringesport.com.
Okay.
So you can email me there. I want to tell you a quick funny story about oversharing. So...
Is it about when you dropped your pants at the Beard Brand office?
I did get naked on stage at Beard Brand Alliance. That wasn't the story I was going to say, but yes, that is oversharing or vulnerability. But no, I was joking about giving out my email on this, which I'm totally cool with. But the story was I used to share a lot with our email list. And so every January 1st, so we're down here in Austin, Texas, a Southern tradition on January 1st is to have black-eyed peas for luck and then to have collard greens for money in the coming year. And so basically every year I have a little get together at my house and I invite a few people over and I make actually a really badass bowl black-eyed peas, and then instead of collard greens, I do Brussels sprouts. So one year I got some, wild idea and I invited all 40,000 people on our email newsletter list to my house, and I didn't clear it with the wife.
Oh, no.
First.
Oh, no.
And so I said, hey, I'm doing this on January 1st in Austin, Texas. Anybody wants to come, just reply to this email and I'll send you my address. And, 10 or 20 people replied and said, hey, I'll be there. And I sent them the address and I'm like, hey, baby, we got some guests that are coming by for our open house. And she hit the roof. Rightly so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm an oversharer.
Yeah.
So sometimes poor
boundaries. Did you get murdered or anything?
Yeah, I got slightly murdered.
Okay.
No, we had some great customers come by the house and, it was a little weird. I'm definitely not going to do it again. I love our customers, though. I want to be super clear about that. But definitely it was a boundary that I should not have stepped over for family reasons.
Yeah, no doubt. Sweet. Follow Peter. Buy some stuff at Fringe Sport. I have bought thousands of dollars of Fringe Sport stuff, and it has enhanced my life, and I do feel stronger through strength. To the point where I'm kind of pestering my wife to get in there, use a gym as well. So
I love it.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for being on the podcast, for swinging by the office. As always, this has been another e-commerce conversations. Cheers.
Cheers.
Keep on growing.